My name is Jason Hines, and I am CEO and co-founder here at Gigasheet. Really excited to talk to you today about some new AI capabilities. We actually have a very new capability that we're announcing today and showing off for the first time, so that's very exciting, as well as some other stuff that's available in the product. And we'll get right into it. And I'm excited to share that with you. Also, we'll be taking Q&A in the panel. In the Q&A panel, you can also send Q&A via the chat as well. We'll get to those questions at the end. Also, a quick plug for our next webinar in December. On December 17th, we're going to be talking about price transparency data solutions. So if you work in the healthcare space, this may be of interest for you, and we encourage you to join that. So without further ado, let's dive into it. As I mentioned, my name is Jason. I'm CEO and co-founder here at Gigasheet, and I'm joined by Vishal Doshi, who is our head of AI and analytics here. And Vishal will be taking us through some stuff in Gigasheet in terms of a live demo. So for those who aren't familiar with us and what we do, Gigasheet, really the whole idea behind the company was to make it easier to work with really big data sets, and that you shouldn't really need to have engineering skills like SQL or Python to be able to do some of these advanced things. There are a lot of smart people in the world, a lot of smart data analysts, and not all of them have data engineering skills. And so really what we're working to do is lower those barriers. We firmly believe that databases are becoming more like spreadsheets in their user interface, and spreadsheets are becoming more like databases in their backend. You can see this at small scale with applications like Smartsheet and Airtable and many others. But what we're focused on is really that large-scale data warehouse capability, but encapsulating it in a spreadsheet-like user interface. So why is this happening? What's driving this? And the whole idea is really, spreadsheets are truly self-service analytics. A lot of BI tools talk about, well, it's easy to use. Yeah, but think about how many people are experts in Tableau or Power BI or Click or whatever your company might use at your company. How many people are experts in that? How many people know SQL? How many people know Python? Versus how many people know how to use a spreadsheet interface? And it's really, truly like approachable. And in fact, Gigasheet has over 150,000 users globally. And we have trained maybe like 10 or 12 of those people. So everyone else has been able to pretty much figure it out on their own. And that's because they already speak the common language, the language of spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are awesome. They give you like so much flexibility and control. They're accessible to just about everybody who has basic computer skills. You can do really all kinds of different analysis in a very straightforward way. If data is not quite right, which is often the case, you can transform it, clean it up, and prepare it. You can even join data, like maybe you get a data set from a data provider online and you want to layer in your own data. Spreadsheets allow all of this stuff. And that's why they're so flexible, powerful, and people love them for data analysis and things like that. But increasingly, we believe AI is going to really help with that. It's already starting in some places, but I firmly believe it's going to really help data analysts of all walks, whether you're a citizen data scientist or you're someone who's actually quite skilled in data analysis. AI just offers a lot of shortcuts, and we're going to be showing off some of those today. Important point about what we're going to show off today, it's all live in our product. I've seen some other products out there that are showing, oh, what's coming or what might be possible, but then you go try it out and it's like, well, it's not available to you yet, or you have to train it on all of your data. Everything that we're going to be showing today is live and available in Gigasheet. And actually, AI tools have over a 90% adoption by our enterprise customers. So this thing about spreadsheets is it's not all good. It can cause lots of problems, and they can be big problems, especially in a larger enterprise, uh, or even just a smaller enterprise or an individual. Spreadsheets are limited in scale. Excel goes up to about 1 million rows, Google Sheets even less. It's based on the number of cells, but scale is a problem versus when you think about databases and data warehouses like Snowflake or MySQL or Databricks. I mean, they can scale almost limitlessly. They can scale tremendously well, but the interfaces for those are problematic. So spreadsheets have limited scale. They don't update in real time. Like the cool thing about a database is like as you get a new order or maybe new analytics flow into that data store, it's updated in real time. A lot of BI tools actually have this problem too, where it has to like sync and make a copy of the data into its in-memory database. And that's something that really breaks this idea of single source of truth, where everybody's working on the same data set. Now you have copies replicated all over the place. So data teams kind of have a love-hate relationship with spreadsheets because it can create these islands of sort of tech debt everywhere. And we're very aware of this at Gigasheet as well. And that's why we've architected it the way we have. So if you're not familiar with Gigasheet, basically what it is, this is a spreadsheet user interface like you're seeing here on the screen that is accessible to pretty much anyone who's familiar with spreadsheets, but it has a data warehouse backend. And if you sign up for an individual or free account on Gigasheet, you're actually running on top of our data warehouse that we manage. But if you have a business or enterprise plan, we have the ability to attach to your own database or data warehouse. So in those cases, the data actually never leaves your data store or cloud. And you can do lots of database-like things that spreadsheets aren't capable of. Like here, we're looking at some groups and aggregations. But the whole idea is that it be approachable and truly self-service in an interface that scales as well as a data warehouse, have those live connections to those underlying data stores. And in this case, users get to work with the entire data set, not a replica or a copy or a sample or an aggregate roll-up, but all of the data. So you can drill down to every row level detail. And the same goes for AI with Gigasheet, is it's not working with a sample. The AI is operating on the entire data set. And finally, it's easy to explore, analyze, and leverage this in a safe way, right? Like you don't want, if you're running an enterprise data warehouse, you probably don't want every business stakeholder in the enterprise just mucking around and like editing data. So we integrate with governance and controls, and our AI tools also follow suit as well. In many cases, it's a read-only copy, but you can post back results and write back to the underlying data store, or even just save a view to the underlying data store based on that. So that's a little bit about what we do at Gigasheet. And now we're going to get into why are we talking about AI today? Well, I mean, of course, it's the hot new thing and everybody wants to talk about it. And we actually initially weren't sure, people were like, oh, you've got to integrate AI, particularly our investors were pushing us to, when ChatGPT first came out, how are you going to add AI to your offering? And we were actually quite skeptical, I guess, of, we really want to add things that can help people, not just things that are good for marketing. And when we look at, speaking of marketing and kind of buzz, when you look at where all the amount of venture capital dollars are flowing, in this case, this is the orange bars on this bar chart, you can see like it goes into all kinds of different areas that you may have heard about in the news, like customer support or automating software engineering and things like that. But if you look at where enterprises are actually applying AI based on hiring data, in this case, this company Sumble wrote a really cool blog where they analyze job posts and what are they looking to accomplish? Like what projects do enterprises have going on? And overwhelmingly, it has to do with data analytics, with cleaning up data and analyzing data using AI. And that's, what's motivating us is we feel that pull of our users wanting to do more with that. And so that's why we're going to talk about AI today. When we decided to go into this, there were kind of three guiding design philosophies for AI at Gigasheet. So first of all, it has to work at scale. When we even back to our earliest days, we were like actually, just operating on millions of rows at a time, and we're like, it has to work at billions. It has to work on billions of data points. I mean, full stop. Because if it can work at billions of data points, then it's truly scalable. Second, it has to be explainable. I think data analyst, myself included, I'm not willing to accept just an answer. So if we ask an LLM or something and it just says, here's the answer, I'm always a little skeptical. Like, I want to know how it arrived at that answer. And it needs to be in a explainable and transparent in a way that I can understand. So if you've played with ChatGPT or other LLMs where you can upload data sets to it, you can upload, tens of megabytes, maybe a couple hundred megabytes of data, and you have to give all of your data to the LLM. It loads it into memory, and then it will do some analysis, and it often will use R or Python pandas or other code analytics. And I started my career as a software engineer, but I can't validate and go through every line of the code. Like, it writes so much code, I'm not going to go through all of that and trace it and make sure the results are valid. But I can definitely do that with a spreadsheet formula, for example, or I can look at a spreadsheet and see, how it was filtered or configured, and then say, yes, it did the right thing or it didn't. So it has to be explainable and transparent. And finally, it has to be secure. We fully recognize that a lot of people don't want to give all of their data to an LLM or to another company, and ourselves included. It's just frankly not feasible to give a 2.3 billion row data set to an LLM. There are memory constraints and other constraints as well. So we had to find a way to do it without passing all of our user data to it. And those are kind of our guiding points. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce Vishal Doshi, who leads our AI and analytics engineering here at Gigasheet. I met Vishal when he was just a lowly political appointee at the Pentagon, working for the Deputy Secretary of Defense on this huge missile system, I think, as I recall correctly. Vishal went on to do a bunch of other data engineering, data analytics work at most recently, he was a senior director of engineering at Nike. He got his master's at MIT. Super smart guy. And I'm really excited to have him here today to take us through what he's been building at Gigasheet in terms of AI. He's also pretty good at pub trivia. So welcome, Vishal.
Thank you, Jason. Do you mind just switching over to the next slide? And
Yeah, sure.
I'll go ahead and, so as Jason said, I was Senior Director of Engineering at Nike, focused on what's called commercial analytics, which is related to the supply chain and optimizing so you have like the right product in the right place. And something my team would run across pretty often is that we would have stakeholders come to us with these requests, or they would come to these analysts with requests for new views of the data to help answer specific questions that are a little more ad hoc. And my team's like main focus was on building models and productionizing models that help, do these systems. So I had to maintain a team focused on helping analysts, and you would have to basically pair together an analyst and a data engineer because there would be a ton of iteration going back and forth with the stakeholder on what exactly you needed. And so when I saw Gigasheet before I joined, I was like, wow, this would really simplify that workflow and it would really empower analysts. So what we're going to do today is walk through some sample data of a retailer, kind of similar to what I would have seen when I was at Nike. And the ad hoc request coming in is um, we ran an online promo last quarter in a particular segment. How did it do? Was it successful? Should we expand to other segments? And we expect follow-ups and iterations. So, the question we're going to try to answer is, can we enable a business analyst, and I'll play the business analyst, to do this themselves with the help of AI?
Cool. Uh, Sounds good. We'll dive into it. As I mentioned, we'll take questions at the end. You can put them in the chat panel or the Q&A panel rather anytime you want, and we'll get to it. But yeah, Vishal, I'll hand it over to you so you can take us through it.
Thank you, Jason. Let me know if you can confirm seeing my screen.
Yep, it looks good. Seeing your slides.
Yes. All right, great. All right, cool. So, as I mentioned, the scenario we're talking about is, we've done some promotion, and me as an analyst, what I've gotten is access to certain amounts of data. The another team has said, hey, these are the data sets you should look at. They could have come from a data warehouse like Databricks or Snowflake, or they could be files on S3 and we could bring them in. So this is the Gigasheet library, and I've put them into a folder called retailer sales, and I've got these three files. So first, I'm just going to point out that if I look at this, this is the initial sales file. Um, and you can see that it's got product store date, it's got some promotions, but this is pretty far from being able to answer the question we want to answer. Um, so what I'm going to claim is that with the help of AI as an accelerant to the data analyst, I could go from this data set to this curated view, where we have the exact answer we want, which is here we go. Where if we're looking at men's, we're filtered to men's. We're looking at cross training. We have it aggregated up here. We have it broken down. So we're looking at 2024 Q3 versus 2023 Q3. We could see that online promotions led revenue to jump from 13K up to 36K, about 3x. So this is exactly what I would ship off to the stakeholder. I could send them a link that would bring them directly to this view. They could then modify it as needed or do additional slices. Maybe they want to see what this looks like on a per city basis. They could do all of this within Gigasheet, and then we can iterate and go back and forth. So I'll show now how we go from this to this and explain a bit more about how we get there. So as I said, we got access to these three data sets, sales, stores, and products. I don't know too much about them right now. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go in, and you'll see that we have a nice summary from the AI right here that tells me, that I'm looking at a product hierarchy table. I've got product IDs here, and then I've got some hierarchy names. Um, and it gives me a good quick summary. So one thing I want to know, maybe to do some quick data validation, is how many unique product IDs are there? And so let me pause for a second and orient you a bit. So I open the file. This will look familiar as a table that you might see in Excel. I get a summary down here that there's 699 rows. And over here on the right, I have the Sheet Assistant, which is our AI integration. And it functions very much like a chatbot. So how many unique product IDs are there? I'll send this off to the AI. And it's going to, as Jason pointed out, with our principles, first it's going to tell me what it's doing, so it's going to tell me its plan. It's going to count the unique product ID values. It's going to then tell me what it did. So it aggregated, and you can see down here, it added the aggregation right here. And I see that there's 699 unique product IDs, 699 rows, so I don't have any duplicates. And I think that's maybe where we'll stop with this file, and we'll check out the other files, the other sheets.
Yeah, and I should mention, like, this is all being done by Vishal live. So as you guys know, if you've worked with chatbots before, like sometimes they do weird things. So it may happen, but hey, that's the reality of it. We actually still see that it's useful. And I think, we debated should we even do this webinar, but I think it is useful. And the more we talk to our users, they're like, yeah, it's not 100% perfect, but it's still additive and helpful. And so that's why we decided to go through it today. So can be a bit nerve-wracking doing this live, but I still think it's worth it. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah, I
And
see
so
the AI assistant here has provided another summary again for this sheet, which is a modest size, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. And it's a little nerve-wracking sometimes, but it's also pretty fun because the AI, it really is quite powerful. And when it gives you what you want, it's like magic. And when it doesn't, we've designed it such that you could still get there pretty quickly. So this is the store file. I've got information on store types, store sizes, and the cities that they're located in. So I think I want to know a little bit more about the store types. So I'm going to tell it to analyze by store type, and we'll see what it comes back with. So this is another modest data set, just 144 rows. It tells me it's going to group um, by the store type, and it's going to provide a quick summary here of information about it. Now, so it did this grouping. Now this is clickable here. And so I could see that it grouped by both ID and name. And to Jason's point, those are kind of redundant and the names are more useful. So I'm going to go ahead and change what it did. Um, and now we can see, okay, we've got these four types of stores. There's embedded stores, flagship stores, outlet stores, and retail stores. And it also gave this nice summary here. All right. So now I'm going to go finally to the sales data set, which is really going to be the main one. So here too, we have the nice summary from the AI. And one quick thing to note is that this has 19.5 million rows, which is already at the scale where this will not open in Excel or Google Sheets. So this is not something you would be able to analyze without the help of something like Spark or Databricks. And as Jason mentioned, our product will scale to billions of rows. So first thing I want to do is bring in the other kind of related data that we have. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to need yet, but I know that I've got only product ID here and store ID. And ultimately, I know I need to do some analysis based on the product hierarchy. So what we'll do in Gigasheet is what we have over here in our functions called cross-file VLOOKUP. And so if you're familiar with Excel or Google Sheets, this is the same as the VLOOKUP functionality. If you're familiar with databases, this is a join. So I'm going to tell it that I'm going to look up the product ID from the file product hierarchy and match on the column in the file called product ID. I've got some additional options here about doing near matches. And here too, I can either just bring in a true or false if it finds the value. But in my case, I actually want to bring in the data and I want to match, I think, on the two hierarchy names so that I'll be able to do the kind of filtering and analysis we want. So I'll click apply and it's going to do that lookup across the 19.5 million rows. And when the new data arrives, you'll see it highlighted for us right here. And so now we've got, okay, this is, product 0001, which is in women's running. So I'm going to do the same thing and bring in the data for the stores, except I'm going to match on store ID from the
If you've
store.
ever done like a VLOOKUP in Excel on like, I don't know, a few 100,000 rows, uh, you can see what we mean. Like databases are built to do this. It takes just like a second or two to bring in these matches versus, if you're doing this in a spreadsheet, you have to break it up across multiple files, and then it becomes almost impossible to do that kind of work. So, it's basically putting a database join into a VLOOKUP like format with also some helpers, things that databases are good at that spreadsheets maybe aren't so great at.
That's right. So continuing, I think a lot of what happens up front is we're setting up the data to be able to do the kind of analysis we need. So another thing we note is that we've got something here called promo name, and that's great. So that's what we want to figure out. So why don't I give it a quick analyze by promo name? But one thing I'll notice up front is that, this isn't neatly categorized as online versus offline. And that's ultimately what I want to do for my analysis. So we'll wait till it finishes its grouping on the promo name. Um, Here we go. And you can see that there's some that say the word online. There's others that say in store or web. And it would, I could build my own lookup table manually to be able to do this, but we have this nice feature in Gigasheet called enrichments. So the enrichments are a way to bring in external data to augment what you have in your data set. And there's a lot of different enrichments available. Some of them require you to bring your key. Some of them we have built into the product. So, there's things from very cybersecurity related items to using Apollo to enrich your data. And we also have an OpenAI enrichment. And so the way this enrichment is going to work, so I pulled into the ChatGPT enrichment, is that we'll generate a prompt right now. And so, my prompt is that let me make this visible while I do it. Um, I need to know if the given promo name is online only. If so, reply with online. Otherwise, offline. And then I need to give it the actual data. So I'll give it the data with a column reference
So
for
basically, you're just saying, like, take this string or whatever was the name and guess. Do you use your best judgment and guess whether it was online or offline?
that's exactly right. And, when so I'll set the temperature so that I get consistent results. And as you know, with GPT, like you don't know exactly you don't know if it's going to work on the first try. So we could test it and see. And, yes, the month markdown, that should be offline. So that seems right. Now I'm not going to click apply here because this is our live system and we're using our API token, Gigasheet's API token here against OpenAI. And so we've implemented queuing so that, we don't get rate limited by them. And I'm not sure whether our load is high or low at the moment across all of our customers. But I
Right.
have
So
run this before.
basically, this goes into a job queue, and then we email you when it's done. Because to be, just based on the rate limits from OpenAI, which were basically this is a no-code integration with their API, it will take some time for that to process, and then Gigasheet will email you when the job is complete. Um,
And when
because
it's done, you'll
yeah,
have a new column like we have here with the response from the AI.
perfect. Yep.
Cool. So something else we're typically doing as an analyst when seeing if a promotion was successful is we care about revenue, whether revenue increased, and we care about margin, right? So I don't have either of those here, but I do have sales, revenue, and price. And so let's go ahead and reset. Let's go ahead and have our AI uh, create a new column for us. So create a discount amount column using sales units, revenue, and price. And so what it's going to do is, that's not the best formula, but we'll see how it does. So what it's going to do is use a formula. Now this is exactly like our spreadsheet formulas in that and to the point. I could see exactly what it did. Now, this is not the smartest choice, so why don't we try again? And we can use our built-in um, AI for our formulas. So create a discount amount.
So in Gigasheet, you can create an entire new column using Excel-like syntax here. And if you already know the syntax you want to use, you can write it yourself. Like if you know how to use the concatenate function or the if function, for example, can do that in Gigasheet. But if you don't know or don't want to write the entire formula yourself, you can state it in natural language and use this AI helper to actually translate, a natural language request to a spreadsheet formula. It's basically what it does here.
Yeah,
It's super
exactly.
cool. Yeah.
And so what it generated was this, which is close to what I wanted, but I don't want actually the negative results. I want discount to be positive because it's a little easier to understand. So I'll go ahead and regenerate the preview, and this looks close to what I want. So um, as I mentioned, a lot of what we're doing here is going from what the AI did, using our own knowledge as an analyst and kind of working with it. Um, I'm actually realizing that maybe I want to view this as a percent. So I'm just going to go ahead and manually update this. And that looks like a percent, so that's good. And I'm noticing a lot of blanks here. And part of that is because these are zeros, but why don't I have the AI help me a bit? So why do we expect some of these to be zeros? So it gives me a good number of plausible reasons here. One is that we have missing sales or revenue. And this does make sense because we have data at the level of product, store, and day. So there's certain products that have zero sales on any given day, and that's okay and expected. And then second, it suggests we might have missing price information. So in Gigasheet down here, I've got these aggregation bars that might look familiar if you're used to using other data analysis tools. But I can see that indeed, there's a lot of zeros there um, in sales and revenue. And then if I also check price, I could see that we have quite a bit. So first thing I think we can do is, for the purposes of our analysis, we don't really need much of this where sales is zero or empty. So filter to sales greater than zero. And it looks like it interpreted what I wanted correctly. I could see what it did. And this is our filter tool, and you can see that, yes, in fact, it's doing sales greater than zero. Um, and I think we can get rid of the data that didn't match this. So we'll go ahead and delete the excluded rows. And let's see if that fixed our issue with the price. In fact, no, there's still a lot of missing prices. And I'm going to quickly sort by product, and I'll see that we have cases where, for example, P0001 has a missing price here, but we do have other prices for it for other days or other stores. And so that should be good enough for us to impute a price. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new column called imputed price. Um, and I'm going to have the AI generate this for me. So we want a new price column that uses the original price if available, and otherwise uses the average by product ID. Let's see how that works. So this is great. This is to interpret it. This is a pretty complex formula. And so we'll go step by step. If, the price is blank, we want it to do the average by product ID of the price and otherwise use the existing price. So I think this is exactly what we wanted. And you can see in the sample, this was one case where it was missing. So let's go ahead and add that.
So that's going to compute this for all 19, however many million.
Yes. Well, it would have if I didn't delete the ones that were missing. So
Oh,
now we're
right.
doing the 3 million data
Okay.
set.
Still pretty good.
Yeah. And so now we've got the price, and you can see, we've got a good estimate here. It's not going to be perfect, but there were some cases where it was 775, some 875. The average for the product was 853, and that's what it went with. Now we still have to update this formula to use that new price. But I think now we're ready to go back to amount now that we've solved all the data issues. Let's check. That looks good. So now we've got how much we actually discounted everything. So we're missing maybe one more piece of the puzzle, which is we need to analyze this by quarter. So let's create a quarter column that looks like, so here's a very vague instruction, but let's see if it can interpret it. So I'll give it an example of what I want to see. And it's going to extract year and quarter from the date column. It used a formula to create the quarter. So we should see that come in shortly. And once again, yeah, this went over the 3 million remaining rows. I do a quick spot check. This looks exactly like what I want. I can check the formula, and yeah, it just concatenated the year and the quarter from the date. Great. So now I think we can go ahead and start the real work that gets us to the dashboard that we want to send to our stakeholder. So let's filter to men's. So yes, hierarchy one, name equals men's. That looks great. So let's analyze by hierarchy. Hierarchy two, promo web, and by, actually, I think we want quarter first. Let's do quarter and by promo web. And filter to Q3 of 2023 and 2024. So here I've given it a pretty complex set of instructions. And we'll see how it does. So it's applying the filters to men's. It's got the quarters right, but it didn't get the Boolean logic quite correct. So we actually want this to be an and. So now we have men's and one of these two quarters. So we'll update the filter there. It's got the grouping on hierarchy two name and quarter, but it missed the grouping on our promo web column. So let me add that. And great. And now it's done some preliminary analysis, and maybe this can be a starter for some bullets I might send to the stakeholder with this view. But I'm going to refine the view a bit first so that I'm looking only at revenue and our discounted amount. And then I'll add an aggregation here so we can see the sum at each level we're looking at. And I'll go ahead and expand these and these. So now we get back to the view I showed you at the beginning. I can go ahead and save this as our men's online promo dashboard. and I would be able to copy a link to this and send it off in an email to the stakeholder. And they would be able to come in, see this interactive view if they want to slice things further, or filter differently, or make this, view this for women's or kids. They would be able to quickly do that, or they can send feedback and we can continue to iterate. Um, we can also, from this, save it back to our warehouse, either as a view or as a table, so that it can be consumed by other users upstream, downstream. And one other thing I wanted to add is that, this whole thing can be automated so that if we get updates on our data every week or day or month, we would be able to have a fully automated process such that this view would get automatically refreshed as that data comes in. So I'll stop there and hand it back over to you, Jason.
Very cool. Great. Thanks for sharing that. Seems like it went reasonably well considering all the variables and unknowns. So very excited to see that. We'll open it up for questions now. So if you have a question, drop it into the Q&A panel and we will get to it. I saw one question come in earlier, and that is, the question is all my data sent to ChatGPT to do this? And I don't know, you want me to answer that? You want to answer it, Vishal? Like,
Uh, Go ahead, Jason.
all right. No, we can't pass all your data to Chat GPT, even if we wanted to, but it would also be kind of we talked about our design philosophy and that sort of thing. So no, we don't. The way it actually works and the way Gigasheet's interface works in general is as you're manipulating this spreadsheet user interface, it's generating SQL queries to a backend data store. And when we use AI, basically AI is writing SQL queries that go to the backend data store, but it is not doing it directly. It uses our API, which acts as a wrapper and has all kinds of controls around it, things like rate limiting, things like it's read only, and things like that. So basically, AI is behind the scenes. It looks at some metadata about your file. So it knows how many columns you have, maybe the column heading names and the data types of each column. And it uses that to decide what API calls should be made to Gigasheet. And then Gigasheet issues the actual SQL back to the backend. So it's actually nicely decoupled. The cool thing about this is, yes, we do use OpenAI in our individual premium product and free product. And actually everything that you saw today, you can actually go try out yourself. Doesn't need to be like pre-trained or anything like that. And it doesn't require any special anything. You can go try it out on for free data sets up to I think 100,000 rows. You can test it out yourself. But no, even at the free tier, your data isn't all shipped off to some LLM. The nice thing about it being decoupled also is for our enterprise customers, if they have an off-the-shelf model or they're using like Anthropic or something else, that can be plugged in as well. So if they have an in-house model or Bedrock, Amazon Bedrock, for example, is another option, you can use your own. So that was one question. Now, oh, I should specify. Now, Vishal did show an example of an enrichment with ChatGPT. Now, the way that works is it loops over every element that you passed it. You may recall he inserted some variables, they were column names. And in that case, it does pass that data. He was asking it, look at the name of this promo code and guess whether it's online or offline. Traditionally, that could be a really nasty thing to try to solve with like a bag of words or other approach, but we asked the LLM, it's pretty good at those kinds of things. So in that case, it just passed each of those items to ChatGPT and it does it batch. And we talked about how we
Yeah.
queue it up. So
In
in
the
that
enrichment
case,
interface, you choose exactly what is going to be sent to the
correct.
LLM.
Right. And in that case, that data did go to ChatGPT and it went, one at a time over every row. So in there, we hit on like AI in a bunch of different ways. We looked at the AI summary. We looked at the AI sheet assistant, which is the chat kind of co-pilot on the right. And we also saw AI formula building. In all three of those cases, your data is not shared with any third party. The one case where it might be is if you do an enrichment where you explicitly say, I want to pass this data to a third party and I want it to respond with something. And that's true for like geolocation enrichments. If you're enriching with a source like revenue base or Apollo, you pass an email address, like you have to pass that data. Oh, when you deliver your report to the stakeholder, can they edit the sheet?
Yeah, so the view that I generated, that was like a set view, and that's their starting point. But from there, they can, assuming I've given them edit rights to the sheet, or perhaps I don't own it and they have their own edit rights, they can create their own views very easily, and they would be able to analyze the data, with other slices. I kind of hinted towards it. I brought in that stores data, but I didn't actually use it yet. But maybe, it really matters whether their retail stores are did better or worse compared to their outlet stores for the online promo.
Yeah, I guess the answer is really in that first part, which is it's up to you as the creator. You can decide whether you want to give view only access or edit access. In the case of both of those, even with view only access, they can change the like filters, groups, columns that are shown. Like one thing we see a lot of and we encourage is, you know, BI and analytics teams are forever adding another column to the dashboard. And we're like, just give all the columns, but hide them. And then if the user wants more data, you can unhide the columns. We support thousands of columns. So you can give pretty much everything, give the full data set and just restrict the view to what you want them to focus on. And you can choose whether they can edit that or not.
Right.
So
And we have one customer who brings in data from Salesforce, and it comes in with 800 columns. They care about five of them, right?
right. And like you said, we automate it and we automatically hide all but the five. But if they decide, oh, I really want to get the, telephone country code and include that for whatever reason, they can do that. Let's see. Uh, can you edit the AI Copilot output? Um,
Yeah. Uh, so I could take that one.
yeah, go ahead.
So when the AI tells you what it did, we provide nice, like, clickable things that bring you to the specific actions it took, and you can edit them very easily. One thing I'll point out is we really designed this so that the AI takes actions that you're able to take in the product. So it's not doing anything magical ever. It's doing filters, groups, all features that are available in the product, and we can point you to those features so that you could edit the AI output if it got something wrong, which it did during my presentation a few times.
Awesome. Let's see. I think there was one more. Got some of these we already sort of answered. We'll just take one more. Where was it? Sorry, I'm just flipping between my windows. Uh, can I try the AI formula writer on the free version? Yeah, you can. We just released this today and super excited. And you can try it out. Actually, you can try all of these out as I mentioned before. We are at uh, almost 50 minutes here, so we're probably going to wrap it up. Uh, One question that came in also just now. This is a good one. Will you allow building agents in the future? I'm going to give that one to you, Vishal.
Yeah. So the idea, and feel free to clarify if you can in there, but is the idea that we want to enable the kind of agent that would let you kind of automate a process or something like that? That is absolutely uh, something we're able to enable. Like right now, our automation isn't self-service, but that's certainly possible.
Cool. Yeah, I think there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do. I really like the way we've architected this because it allows for us to add in things in a safe way, nicely, and so many different things. Another area that we are looking at actually, maybe with our own agents, is getting the Sheet Assistant to be smarter, or more creative, I guess, like to be able to help suggest other ways to look at your analysis or data. And that's super interesting as well. But I think we'll leave it there. Thank you all for joining. We had a great turnout for this one. And thank you, Vishal, for taking us through that.